YouTuber slash boxer slash academician Anthony Wall. My YouTube channel can be found also at youtube.com/user/Romulus Wall. Romulus, in some way I tell it best. Boxings. Romulus goes for science. For what's more practical and more probable at the same time regarding ancient history and regarding semi-ancient history and regarding the nature of the debate regarding all things, and so as such. Boxings prepare for much. The Republic lost its function as that hyper-native. Our founders communicated for us to understand the difference between hyper-native and how also why president/chief. Nature itself shows us the value of indigenous populations, distinctly victims from ourselves, syntactically with a breaching method assigned, for example, black pupils and whites of eyes to communicate other than for the hyper-simultaneous, as we all know it is. So people, just because people get away with ending debates or winning debates, in other words, the nature of the debate in all sides with differences as sides assigned. You left out the breaching methods roles, black and white, the most simplest, fundamental thing, black pupils, because the campuses have stayed abridged. One part about forgiveness, where the debate, but forgiveness or not forgiveness, if you let the hyper-invisible lead, it's not to forgive, but it's not to convict without blaming the breach, in other words, not to leave out the breaching method with blame. And like, for example, with criminal insidiousness that is enabled through countries individually grouped in together. They never stop being individuals, groups, and voices for humanity together, tactical ulterior. As systems are that tactical ulterior from nature. Again, black people, here, it's time. So in other words, we shut a box as a species body. They speak about war and or peace, because the peace is in criminal insidious natures of peace. In other words, so we're going to show the difference between criminal hyper peace and peace. But the hyper peace, when it's there to check if it's there, it's making positive value nature progressions, action natures everywhere at once. That's why we have longings everywhere at once. Since before our founders were born, the suburbs were designed in America tactically denatured for torture, extortion, slavery. Anyone who wants to deny that, their logic, their syntax, their nature has inherent to it, active to it, progressive to it, demonstrations of the same things, black people. We would have discovered this, but there has been possession over names A through Z at locations, areas of the states. Otherwise, that body is sensed, even if that body is a majority of people. Even if it is everyone, black people, we are in a trap with syntax and use of name /s that came in sequence value and what is to come value. As systems, again, tactical ulterior from how nature tells us to appreciate things. Know how nature repeats to us increasingly the value of understanding the differences between the seasons that aren't here and how they are anyway. Their value. So again, to appreciate that, words like value too, only heard through systems abridged. We're supposed to get the Constitution unabridged, boxing. This breaching method made people pretend to be about free speech or not as a shell game, leaving out exception nature as they are actually manifest. I tell best, I'm not a lawyer. The science is shared an identity. And we'll have to explain this because we have more witnesses than we need, and we don't even need, in other words, we know everyone knows. when we hear them speak about black-white, they're leaving out the breaching method. See, performable jobs pretended they were supposed to speak for integrity they never had. That's not what James Madison, that's not what all appearances of justice. Real justice must satisfy all appearances of real justice. See, but that's not what we have. And that's not what we've had interpreted for it, because they've had each age of fact-keeping nature. The differences of the public campuses and the private, this is a names use method. It's a method of measuring and maintaining left out the hyperforeign names, which propagated and cultivated, then had it self-cultivated roles with it, all groupings of humanity, all natures of logic associated with that. Economic opinions, debates regarding economic variables are being used to pretend things that are debatable that aren't, as roles, to measure and maintain roles with wire crime acts and methods, identity theft, fraud, slanders on a mass scale, fake transcripts, faked audio and video, changed audio and video on campuses filmed 24/7. That's why they have the problems with the news, all the subject treatments in the news, the shooting at the schools, the Sandy Hook shootings, the reports of it anyway, and medical locations like Hartford Hospital. They have an Institute of Living involved with overt criminal enterprises and private ones, foreign and domestic military, countries that have the audacity to speak about war and have weapons pointed at each other all this time. They've had more scams through these campuses than there are streets in the cities. In other words, all kinds of scams with fake transcripts and databases. Also, all kinds of tactical delusions / hyper-tactical with experts on logic on each of the subjects. This is a method that uses locations. It uses location / S everywhere the human species body is. And it propagated, only remembered, manifest, syntactical demonstrations and styles as arrays and counters to each other as the same array, being used to shell, scream, blame on other things, others ourselves, nature's demonstrations of the worst causes of negative value nature, progressive acts of nature, and of the speeching method behind it. You cannot tell American history properly if you don't appreciate the means to discern. There was a fact-keeping nature breaching method, manifest as an identity theft, fraud, slander method with a hyperforeign body / IES. Also manifest as foreign bodies, all individual grouped together, tactical terror from how nature wants us and needs us to appreciate ourselves individually grouped and together. For how it is, it has this grouped as a species too now, and has the other species bodies manifest with this volume signs, individual group difference / S, and species difference. Black people, it's here, it's time. Republic needs, the campus must see us back, return, prepare. So any leader, no matter how powerful they get, locations, areas, and states, already had all sides of criminal and civil cases. The lawyers, the news at the same time, the names at the courts, and all the rest of the intelligence, the difference between them and intelligence, like prisons tied to them, like people associated with their town offices or next to it. In other words, like the state judicial branch offices and corrections offices of Connecticut. They have roles with the World Trade Center attack, and with the World Trade Center used remotely criminally foreign influence, for that which of the value of forgiveness is critical to navigate through and beyond. Because, again, where there's exceptions to that, they're all in demonstration of the same thing too. That human factoring, treating nature, breaching method as a scientific value demonstrated to logic and to us, our logic experts who have recorded enough proofs to demonstrate The expert on logic and on each of the sciences have been a certain type of victim slash hyper victim. And that has been used remotely with them pretending other as styles. And it's in the way of, everyone's understanding, because all these illusions being stacked and fake motivations, even when they are real more and more. So there are means to discern this. WFSB attached me to fake conversations with themselves and about the World Trade Center attack. And while simultaneously I caught them rolls with names with untimely deaths, a principal child offender proving afterwards anyway, and more then and now, and more medical offenders, foreign and domestic, of kids, and the same names, judges, prosecutors, their family members, same names, timed rolls with overt criminal enterprises and private ones. So now they have roles with foreign and domestic, cyber police, increasingly roles with crime scene, all kinds of fake motivations behind their rackets with bullying and their narratives. They're putting sequence shifts and putting their behavior racketeering regarding how they get away with use of names the way they do, while their own are so deprived. The experts on logic, black pupils, they've missed much. But you're too long. Boxing strong. Attain. Romulus will lead us all home, man. We must bring this manifest. It's an identity of relationship to itself. Black pupils. The campus Marcius has, where yin yang slash alpha and omega have relativity as science slash S that go together. And this is more probably how the ancients revealed things and taught things and appreciated them. Again, our names and our groupings, our differences, individually, as a species individual of individual bodies, group difference slash S. Ancients observed this as we can again. But it simultaneously comes with observance of a certain type of victim slash hyper victim. And the differences between the ones formally involved with it, overt criminal enterprises, private ones. Hundreds of nations shared on and off campuses ways they're directed not to tell on. They can't help but tell it, because it's part of what's demonstrated. Black pupils see the breaching method, discern. Who disbelieves